All right, welcome into DodgerHeads Live, presented by DodgerBlue.com. My name is Jeff Spiegel. I'm joined by Daniel Starkin, and for the second night in a row, it's not where we want to be. It's not the mood we were expecting, and yet this was about as complicated of a baseball game, I think, as we could possibly have, Daniel. Would you agree with that? I mean, just as far as you don't really know how to feel after a game like this.
Yeah, I mean, for most of the night, we felt frustrated, sad, angry, depressed, all the worst emotions you could feel. I mean, and then towards the end, the Dodgers showed a little life, which was obviously a good sign moving forward. But at the same time, they came up just short. So all those feelings of, sad and anger all just came right back right away. So, yeah, it was definitely a weird game. Sucks to be down 0-2 right now, but the series is not over.
Yeah. Yeah, well, the day starts with Clayton Kershaw having back spasms. The expected Game 2 starter is out. So Tony Gonsolin comes in, and, if we're just looking at this thing chronologically, the way the game started was really encouraging. 3-pitch strikeout of Acuna, 4-pitch strikeout of Freeman. Nice play by Chris Taylor to get Marcell Ozuna. And all of a sudden, you've got the three best hitters in the lineup out with no problems with Tony Gonsolin. The Dodgers lead off with a walk. They do the same thing in Game 1. They get 28 pitches or something. They get first and second for Will Smith again for the second straight game. And that felt like a moment to me, Daniel, right off the bat that was sort of indicative of how this game was going to go. Will Smith, 100.8 mile an hour exit velocity, right towards the third baseman. Unbelievable play by Riley. Unbelievable play by Freeman. The Dodgers get out of it with 0 runs, and that felt like it was kind of indicative of, for a team that needed to catch a break early, it felt like that was a chance to where maybe that loosens them up, and instead it goes against them, and we're tied 0-0 after 1.
Yeah, that was a huge spot right there, and it's something we've seen, a lot this postseason. I feel like the Dodgers haven't really scored too many runs early in games. Yeah. They've gotten guys on. They're working pitch counts, which is still good. Like, it's a good thing Anderson threw 28 pitches that inning, and he only was able to get through 4 innings. Like, we may not be seeing those dividends pay off now, but later in the series, once, their bullpen's taxed a little more because of that, I think we'll see some dividends. But it's still frustrating when you load up the bases or whatever it was, and then Will Smith crushes one and Riley makes this ridiculous play, and it's a scoreless inning, and Gonsolin's right back out there. That was a chance to take the momentum right there, score some early runs, give your young pitchers some confidence, a little lead to work with, and they just weren't able to do it.
Yeah, and I mean, Gonsolin comes back out. 1-2-3 inning in the second, 1-2-3 inning in the third. I mean, he had thrown 27 pitches in the first 3 innings. Gonsolin was dealing. And then the Dodgers are threatening again in the bottom of the third. Another sort of critical bottom of the third, top of the fourth, I felt like was where the game actually swung. Chris Taylor leads off. He hits a ball 108.6 miles an hour, 407 feet, dead center, and it's caught. I mean, this is a ball that the expected batting average on a ball hit that far at that launch angle is 960. He falls into the 040 portion of that. So he gets out. Then Mookie walks. Seager strikes out. Turner singles. You got first and third with 2 outs. Muncy works a 4-pitch walk. Again, Will Smith is up in a big spot. And I stand by. I mean, Will Smith is a guy I want in that moment, and yet he can't come through. That one is an easy ground out to the third baseman. And the whole time, Gonsolin, who's been quick, now he's sitting. That was a long half inning. He comes back out, leadoff walk to Acuna, and then the home run to Freeman, which, is in a lot of ways wasn't a terrible pitch. I mean, it wasn't middle. It was kind of belt high, but it was just in Freeman's sweet spot. And this is a guy who's just completely dialed in. The Braves jump out to a 2-0 lead.
Yeah, I mean, Freeman's been locked in all year. He's probably going to win the NL MVP. So that's one where you just kind of got to tip your cap and you hope, that's only 2 runs. It's not like the game was over at that point. So you hope you could come back after that. But it just kind of got even worse from there, I feel like.
Yeah, and we're going to get to a lot of this. We're going to get to Dave Roberts. We're going to get to the bullpen. We're going to get to the offense. But we're just working our way through, because then we get to the bottom, the top of the 5th is kind of where things start to fall apart. Markakis walks. We get the RBI double from the rookie center fielder with 1 out to put the Braves up 3-0. Gonsolin's at 84 pitches. He leaves him in to face Acuna. This is a moment where the bullpen got used a little bit last night. Roberts is trying to preserve I thought I had no problem personally with leaving Gonsolin in for one extra batter. I mean, it is Acuna, so maybe you think twice there, but his control wasn't perfect. He wasn't getting hit hard. He does end up walking Acuna. They bring in Baez. Now, this is a 3-0 game. Let's put this in context. It's 3-0. The Dodgers aren't hitting anything, and it's early. It's the 5th inning. Baez comes in. This is a guy who has looked good of late, but pretty rough most of the season. RBI single to Freeman, walk to Ozuna, walk to d'Arnaud. Albies deep fly ball. I mean, if you want to talk about Chris Taylor's being out in 90% of parks, Albies is probably out in about 75% of parks. Another run scored, so it's 5-0. Dylan Floro comes in, gets the Swanson strikeout. That was a 33-minute half inning. So let me break that down. Let's first talk about Tony Gonsolin. Overall impressions of Gonsolin's performance tonight were what?
I thought he was good. I mean, he was attacking the zone. He wasn't walking guys until that 5th inning. So I thought he was good. You could tell, as that 5th inning unfolded, you could tell he was kind of running out of gas. Yeah. So it kind of puts Dave Roberts in a tough spot because we know you want to get some sort of length out of your starters, especially given the Kershaw injury. We don't know what we're going to get from him moving forward. So you want to preserve your bullpen if possible. And, you hope Tony could get through one more inning. His pitch count wasn't too high. It was at 84. But at the same time, he hasn't pitched in 17 days or whatever it was. So I guess you're kind of playing with fire at that point. And then he goes to Baez, which, if you want, you could criticize him for that. A lot of people wanted them. Kolarek was also warming up. A lot of people wanted him to come in to face Freeman. But then you got 2 righties after that because of the 3-batter rule that he would have had to face 2. So, I guess it's fair to criticize Dave Roberts for some of the decisions he's made. But to me, this wasn't one of them. He was just kind of put in a tough spot. He knows his offense isn't giving him much. So, I mean, I don't really know what he could have done differently there that would have, resulted in a different outcome. But, I mean, it's just a tough break.
Yeah, I mean, so I posted on Twitter in this moment, I said, hey, this isn't Dave Roberts' fault. This is the Bats' fault. It's probably the most interaction I've ever had on a tweet. I think I'm at 70 comments and counting. What's fascinating to me is the people who crush Roberts. My response was simple to the first few. I couldn't respond to every was, what do you want? Like, what was the expectation? Like, just sit in this moment for a second. So the Dodgers are down 3-0. They've got runners on first and second with 1 out. And you've got to make a decision of who to go in the bullpen. Freddie Freeman is due up. Lefty. Now, Baez comes in. Interestingly enough, lefties can't hit Baez. He's better against lefties than he is righties, but he's also a guy that you trust against the next 2. You make the good point. You can't bring in a lefty specialist with 2 righties immediately falling. They bring in Baez. Now, who do people want? Like, Treinen got shelled last night. People don't love Kenley Jansen right now. Now, people are going to say, oh, we should have brought in Gratterall. We should have brought in Victor Gonzalez. Those are the 2 guys people trust, people like right now. But it's like, okay, do you really burn both of those guys for the second night in a row in a 3-0 game with 2 outs, 2 runners on in the 5th inning? I mean, obviously this turns out to be a 1-run game, but A, they pitched last night, and in high leverage moments, it might have been low pitch count, but the stress levels would have been high. And B, it's like, what are you expecting? In a 7-game and 7-day series, you have to make difficult decisions. I honestly thought Baez was a really good, like, he's like, you go with the guy who's good, not great, but I don't know what else people expected him to do there. I mean, hindsight, sure, Baez was a mess, but like, what else did they want him to do in that spot? I genuinely don't know.
Yeah. And that ball Freeman hit, the single he got, you know, obviously, they're shifting for a reason, but if the shortstop's a few feet to his right, then that's an inning-ending double play. So, it's just a tough break there. He went to Kolarek later in the game, and he didn't look great. He gave up a homer to Albies and hit a guy. So, I mean, it's not like Kolarek probably would not have been the answer there either. So, I don't know, like, what you expect out of Dave Roberts or what you want him to do in that situation. At a certain point, I feel like it's okay to actually criticize the players for not performing and not just throw it all on the manager. But, I mean, that was just a tough break, and things kind of, spiraled downhill from there.
Yeah, and I think what almost compounded this is the Dodgers go down. I believe it's 6-0 at that point. A 33-minute half inning. The Dodgers are now 3 pitchers in, and the top of the order's due up. And so you're kind of saying, all right, like I kept thinking to myself, like, if I'm Gonsolin in the 4th inning or something, like if he wasn't a rookie, he's got to go in there and be like, hey, bats, at any point, do you want to kind of figure this thing out and wake up? Like, what the hell are we doing here? But it's almost like you don't want to put pressure on these guys, like, because it is a long series, and, you know, putting more pressure is not necessarily going to help, but it's kind of like, what are you doing? So you get to the top of the lineup, you know you need a big inning. Mookie Betts pops out, Corey Seager walks, Justin Turner hits a double play, and before you even know it, the inning is over. And it just felt like you could just feel the air, you know, whatever air oxygen was left, whatever hope may have existed still, it was over from there. Dodgers go down 6-0. Now, of course, what's fascinating is things kind of do turn around. They go down 7-0 in the top of the seventh. Corey Seager hits a home run to cut it to 7-3. They give up another run in the top of the ninth and then get 4 back and leave a runner on third at the end. And so I guess I'll ask you, before we get to the offense, we had some people in the comments. We appreciate you watching us on Facebook and YouTube and Periscope, wherever you're watching, Twitter. Did Dave Roberts give up on this game, so to speak? I mean, I got a text message as soon as Alex Wood was in the game. It was like the white flag is being waved. For me, it's 6-0 in a game 2 of a 7 games in 7 days series. At some point you have to make tough decisions, and down 6-0 feels like the time when you say, we just need to get through this game. The odds of us winning aren't worth pouring our best relievers in to keep it at a 6-run game, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what happened, and I don't see like how you could agree with that decision. Like, it's a 6-0 game. Your offense has not shown any signs of life. Like, I don't think any Dodger fan thought they're coming back from that game once they're down 6-0. So I mean, what do you do? What, you're going to use up your prime, you know, your high leverage guys in a 6-0 game when A, most of them just pitched yesterday, and B, you do not have the typical off day that you would have in a 7-game series after game 2. So you got to play again tomorrow and the next day and the next day. And now if you want to win the series, the day after that and potentially the day after that as well.
Yeah.
And you don't know the health of Clayton Kershaw. So I had no problem going to Wood in that spot. You hope you could get, you know, some sort of innings from him. He could give you some sort of length. And he did all right. He gave up a run. He got through, I think, like an inning and a third or something.
Yeah,
or
inning and 2/3.
Yeah, I mean, he did all right. I don't think anyone was looking at that 7th run and then the 8th run in the 9th inning and saying, oh, well, now we lost it. Like, that's the one that lost us the game. Obviously, the way it worked out, it's kind of the truth. But also at the same time, if it's not, you know, a 5-run lead in the 9th, the Braves probably go straight to their closer instead of Josh Tomlin, who's arguably the worst pitcher in baseball. And the Dodgers, you know, the Dodgers did what they're supposed to do against Josh Tomlin, which it's good. Maybe that gets their confidence, you know, in the moving in the right direction. But I don't have a problem with going to your quote unquote mop up guys in a 6-0 game.
Well, and I mean, who are the high leverage guys? Like, okay, people love Gratterall, they love Gonzalez. Obviously, we haven't seen Kenley Jansen yet. Aside from those 3, I mean, Treinen pitched yesterday and was warming. McGee has pitched in both games. Baez is kind of in that category. Joe Kelly is kind of sort of floating around. So it's like, I mean, these guys are on the roster. Alex Wood is sort of in a category of his own, I think, where it's like Alex Wood is the human white flag for the Dodgers right now. And he kind of proved why, you know, an inning and 2/3, but 2 walks, 2 hits, like sort of a disaster when you look at the box score. But I mean, you have to make decisions. And they made the decisions they could with the information they had. Of course, if they knew the bats were going to figure it out, but what in the world gave you the idea that the bats were going to figure it out in the 7th, 8th, and 9th innings of this game? Which brings us to, I think, the thing that anybody and everybody probably wants to talk about, which is the bats seem to maybe finally come around. Corey Seager, a couple big hits. Muncy hits a home run. Bellinger gets a triple. I mean, obviously it couldn't have gotten any worse than when the Dodgers are down 7-0. That is the absolute low point. So to say that, yes, I'm more optimistic now than I was then, well, duh. But they lost. They're down 2-0. But is there a sense in which, even though they lost, the fact that the bats came around was almost the best thing? Like, if they had won this game like 1-0 and the bats looked as terrible as they did, obviously you'd take the win, but I mean, there has to be a sense of optimism just related to the way the bats came around, even if it was meaningless and at the end of the game, right?
No, absolutely. I mean, they could have easily just, rolled over and called it a night and say, all right, we'll get them tomorrow. But they fought and they battled to the very last pitch. And I think that was good to see. That was good to see as a fan. That's what you want to see. You don't want to ever see your team give up. It sucks that they got that close and came up short, because I feel like they gave us some hope and we're like, oh, are they actually going to do this? And it was like, nope.
No, yeah.
But but I mean, it's definitely good to see them getting some hits. That could only help their confidence. Bellinger in particular, he had an awful night, and then in the ninth inning, he absolutely roped that triple down the line. Like, that was probably one of the hardest hit balls of this whole series. So, yeah. And you could tell, just it felt like a weight was lifted off his shoulders when he slid into third base. So, I mean, that was definitely good to see. Same with Muncy. He crushed that homer. That was a no-doubter. So, I mean, those are two guys in particular that have kind of struggled this whole season. And if they could get going, that would be big for them, because we're running out of time here.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to look at the box score. Every single Dodger hitter tonight got a hit. Nobody played that didn't get a hit. So, I mean, it's like, okay, what do you do with that? And like you said, it's the guy I keep coming back to. It's the guys that they need to start performing. Like, yeah. I'm not convinced yet that Justin Turner's figured it out, but Corey Seager getting a couple big hits makes you feel good. Muncy, Bellinger, I mean, those are the guys in the middle of the lineup. Muncy's hitting fourth. Like, if Mookie Betts gets on, it means Muncy is going to hit. If Corey Seager gets on, it means Muncy's going to hit. Will Smith's another. Turner. I mean, like, the 3, 4, 5 spots are the spots that are absolutely crushing them, because, and Muncy, I guess, is drawing some walks, so I'll give him a break a little bit. But it does feel, so I'll ask this looking forward now. I mean, what level of confidence do you have that the bats are going to look different tomorrow than they did to start this game, that they did to start game one?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm honestly, like, surprisingly, I'm pretty confident, and some of it has to do with the Dodgers, but it also has to do with the fact that the Braves had two really good starting pitchers, as like they've been pitching well this postseason. They pitched well in the regular season, and the Dodgers saw both of those guys. So it's not like they're going to see those guys again until later in the series. So as games 3, 4, and 5, those should be the 3 games the Dodgers win, because do we even know who's pitching for the Braves? Like, they got Kyle Wright starting tomorrow, who's a rookie who's made like a handful of starts. And then after that, they don't have another starter on the roster. So, I mean, I'm confident for that reason. And also just because, we saw them look better in the last few innings. Corey Seager in particular hit 2 balls hard. So that's, a good thing. But we need to see them start doing, the little things. And I'm not talking about bunting. Or I'm not trying to be A-Rod here. But, when Mookie Betts is on second base in the first inning after walking and advancing on a wild pitch, you need to find a way to get him to third and get him in. Like, there's no reason the inning should end with him still standing on second base.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, it's the positive, too, of if you're thinking, okay, the Braves, Game 3 is a starter who's not very good, so you hope you can get to him early. Game 4 is going to be a bullpen game. Game 5 is probably going to be a bullpen game unless they decide to bring all their starters back on short rest. And then you look at the bullpen tonight, the Braves had to use 6 different relievers after their starter came out, and all of them gave up hits. 3 of them gave up runs. So the Dodgers are starting to get to some of these guys. Their 2 best relievers have pitched in Game 1 and in Game 2, which are Martin and Melancon. I guess Will Smith may be in that category for them. But the Dodgers are starting to see these guys. And yes, it's frustrating to sort of watch an offense like the Dodgers that loves to take pitches, that loves to work at bats because it feels so out of rhythm. And yet this is the type of team that as a series goes on, their bats are going to get better because they have the approach to take advantage of guys they've seen. And I'll even say this. I mean, the Braves pitchers gave up 0 runs, Fried and Anderson today. Neither of them was great. I mean, Fried was pretty good. Anderson walked 5 guys in 4 innings. Yeah. Like, his night was not good. It just, the Dodgers couldn't do crap. And so, I mean, I guess if you want to say that's good on him, but 5 walks is terrible. I mean, he's 6 base runners in 4 innings is nothing exciting. It's not bad, but it's not great. So it's not like there's any piece of this that feels insurmountable to me. I'm not saying I'm like over the moon, like, oh my gosh, pound the Dodgers money line. They're definitely going to come back and win this series. But yeah, it's like, okay, if they were going to lose games, Game 1 and Game 2 were the 2 games they potentially could lose. Then you say, hey, guess what? Kershaw's not going to pitch. Okay, that hurts. And okay, but Game 3, I mean, if they lose tomorrow, if they lose Game 4, it's like that's when you start saying, what the heck are we doing here? So I do think the Dodgers have put themselves in a hole. I do think that tomorrow is an unbelievably massive pressure-packed game, and yet I don't think there's any reason to believe that this is anywhere close to over yet.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen this Dodger team get punched in the mouth and bounce back all year. So if anything's giving me hope, in addition to the Braves pitching staff not being very good from here on out, that's what's giving me hope. This team fights; they don't quit, which is good to see. But I mean, we're gonna have to come out and score some runs early tomorrow. That's what I'm gonna be looking for, because the longer the game goes and we're not scoring runs, I feel like the pressure starts to build more and more exponentially. And then if you get into the late innings and it's a 1-0 game or whatever, then it just feels like it's 4-0 at that point.
Yeah.
So hopefully they could come out and score some early runs tomorrow for a change.
Yeah, and somebody on YouTube, Patrick S., I believe, was asking, hey, the Braves no pitching. What are we talking about here? Well, we're talking about the future. So tomorrow they've got a guy named Kyle Wright. Kyle Wright has made 12 career starts plus 7 relief appearances and has a career ERA of 6.22. So that's who's starting game 3, and we're not talking about an opener. That's a guy that they're hoping to get 4, 5, 6 innings out of. So if the Dodgers can't get to him, we've got a problem. But even then, it's like, again, we get into the bullpen and everything. It's a war of attrition as far as the bullpen goes. And so it'll be really interesting to see. Like you said, the Dodgers have not come out of the gates hot in any game. I mean, really, in the postseason, they have. Tonight was the biggest. This is probably the most runs they've scored all postseason, right? I mean, this is as close to.
Other than the Padres game 3, okay. I think they scored low, but that yeah. Other than that, yeah.
I mean, so putting 3 runs together, 4 runs together in innings. I mean, that's just not something we're used to. But hopefully the momentum carries. I mean, you've seen that happen before too, where a team kind of doesn't step on the throat like the Braves. They didn't want to use pitchers, and it makes sense why they didn't do it. And yet the flip side is now. The Dodgers got a little life. They got a little momentum. There's probably a little relaxation in the Dodgers clubhouse. And, Ryan Russillo, one of my favorite guys, he always says, you can't teach desperation. You can't fake desperation. The Dodgers are desperate tomorrow. The Braves are not going to be desperate. And so things are lining themselves up. So let's look ahead to game 3. Julio Urias is the projected starter. Is there any doubt in your mind that he is a real starting pitcher that's going to eat innings for the Dodger? I mean, after basically the lack of production they've gotten out of their starting pitching and really their bullpen, it feels like they have to trust him to go at least 4 or 5, maybe even 6 innings tomorrow, right?
Yeah, I mean, they really have no other choice. Now, if you want to win this series, it's going a minimum of 6 games, right?
Yeah.
So you kind of have to get some length out of him, or at least you hope you do. Obviously, you're not just going to leave him in there to give up 9 runs if he doesn't have it, but you're hoping to get some length out of him. I think he went 5 innings out of the bullpen in his last outing against the Padres. So if he could do that, give you 5 innings, maybe 6, then that puts you in a really good spot. I do think one thing the Dodgers have going for them is the Braves. Their splits are heavily in favored against right-handed pitching. They're not as good against lefties, and Julio's a lefty, and then if Kershaw's going game 4, that's another lefty. So maybe they both have good outings, and then we're sitting here after game 4 tied 2-2, feeling a lot better about the Dodgers' chances. But yeah, they need to get some length out of Julio, because as we saw tonight, you want to save your relief arms as much as you can, just so you have them ready when you need them. So hopefully Julio could give them 5 or 6 tomorrow.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at his game log. His last 3 starts of the regular season were 6, 5 2/3, and 6. He was really good. Only 4 earned runs total in those games. And then obviously carrying over into the playoffs, he's made 2 appearances, 8 innings, 4 hits, 1 run that was unearned, 1 walk, and 11 strikeouts in 8 innings. So this is a guy that seems to have figured something out, and he's been there before. He's not afraid. He's made NLCS starts before, so it's not like the moment's going to be too big for him. Obviously, there's a lot of pressure, but it'll be interesting to see. Now, that's game 3. Game 4, they're hopeful that Kershaw's the guy to start game 4. Is that right?
Yeah. Dave Roberts said after tonight's game that they're not going to make any decisions about that until tomorrow. So they'll see how Kershaw feels tomorrow. Worst comes to worst, I guess you can move May up to game 4. He only threw like 1 inning or whatever it was last night. So in theory, he could probably give you 4 or 5 innings in game 4. Ideally, he pitches game 5 with Kershaw going game 4, but we'll see how he feels tomorrow. I mean, it was definitely an encouraging sign that he was already in the bullpen throwing today. They showed that on MLB Network earlier, so I guess he's feeling better already. They said this is something they found out about on Saturday, so it wasn't just something that he woke woke up today and felt it,
Interesting.
which is good because he's already had a few days to start recovering. So yeah, hopefully he's good for Game 4, and then Dustin May can pitch Game 5.
Yeah, I mean, because that's the part you got to think about is Buehler, in theory, probably can't come back till Game 6 if there is a Game 6. Right. And so, it's not just figuring out the next game. That's the bizarre part about this 7 games in 7 days is constantly having to think ahead in a way, and look, I haven't been the biggest Dave Roberts guy in the world. I'm not saying Dave Roberts is a great manager tonight. I'm just saying, look, there's lots of things you can blame Dave Roberts for. I just don't think anything that happened tonight is on him. When the bats don't wake up until the 7th inning and the game's already out of hand, that's not his fault. The situations he's put in. And I think there has to be some level of grace in that managers are trying to figure out. He's never been in a situation where it's the 5th inning and there's runners on 1st and 2nd in a 3-0 game, and he has to worry about playing potentially 5 more games in the next 5 days, having played the night before. It's just nothing. There's no rule book for this. And so I'm not trying to give Dave Roberts a pass on all this. I know people are anti-Dave Roberts people, but I just think it's a unique situation. I mean, yesterday, I think the Braves, Game 1, they threw all these different pinch hitters out there to the point where at the end of the game, they had Pablo Sandoval standing at third base and Charlie Culberson in right. Now, they won, so nobody asked about it, but I was like, oh my gosh, what an awful managing strategy, and they won. But that doesn't mean it was right. Just because the Dodgers lose doesn't mean it was wrong. Sometimes guys don't hit, and that's where the Dodgers are at. So when we look at tomorrow, for you, I mean, you and I have been optimistic. I said they were going to sweep. Obviously, I'm an idiot. But, I mean,
I said 5, so I was wrong.
Realistically, I love the first comment we got tonight. I'd have to go back and see who it was from. The very first person to comment said Dodgers in 6. So I appreciate that. I'll see if I can scroll all the way back up. Jonathan Ip on YouTube. Shout out to you. Dodgers in 6. I love the confidence. I mean, both of us thought they were going to win today. We were obviously predicting with Kershaw being the starter. I don't think either of us would have changed our minds necessarily with Gonsolin. But realistically, I mean, how do you feel about the Dodgers' odds tomorrow?
You just got to take it one game at a time. You're not going to win 4 games in one day. So you just got to go out tomorrow, play your best ball, get some early runs for Julio, let him do the rest. And hopefully, you get back in the series just one game at a time.
Yeah. I mean, and look, the Dodgers, you look at their record, they won 4 out of every 6 games, basically this regular season. They actually did a little bit better than that. So, I mean, that's where they're at. They got to win 4 out of 5. Which isn't crazy. The Braves are a really good team. I think there's probably parts where I'm like, you know what? I probably underestimated their bullpen. I underestimated some pieces. I mean, Freddie Freeman's as good of a hitter right now as you'll ever see in baseball. I mean, I can't think of a time I've seen a guy so locked in where it just feels like every time he comes up, something bad is about to happen for the Dodgers. But yeah, I mean, all that has gone wrong for the Dodgers, they're still in these games. Like, it still feels like even at their worst, they're scraping walks out. They're putting base runners on. It's just kind of like they just need that one rally. And maybe they got it. Maybe tonight was the night, and maybe that was it. And so, I mean, with Kyle Wright on the mound and with Urias, I like Urias. I've been high on Urias all year, and I think he's pitching his best baseball. Now, he's not a sure thing like Walker Buehler in his prime or Clayton Kershaw in his prime. But, I mean, maybe it's the optimist in me, but if we're there in the 4th inning and the Dodgers are down like 5-0 and Kyle Wright's throwing a gem, I don't know how I can be happy and excited and optimistic at all, but I just don't see it happening. I think Justin Turner, Mookie Betts, they get those guys sat down and they say, "Hey, fellas, we saw it. We got to see the ball hit the bat, land in the grass, land over the fence, and this is baseball. We did it all season. We're the best team in the league. 4 games out of the next 5 is not crazy." And I think they figure it out. I think they pull out a win tomorrow. Now, do I think they're going to go on and win the series? I'm not sure. But I definitely feel good about tomorrow. I think the offense continues. I mean, I think they score 6 or 7 runs again. And I think the bullpen, I mean, I'm warning people, you're going to probably see 2 innings of Kenley Jansen at some point. And if it's tomorrow, I would not be shocked. So I'm warning everybody.
Tonight, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, he's rested. He's a guy that's given him length. I mean, it's not sort of fatigue that you're worried about with him. It's stuff. Yeah. So he's got the stamina to handle it. So I think the Dodgers, I think tomorrow's a comfortable win for the Dodgers. I think the bats explode. I think the bullpen kind of settles down a little bit. They catch a couple breaks maybe, and I'll say 6-3 win for the Dodgers tomorrow.
Yeah. One thing that I think we are going to see tomorrow, and something we really haven't had to see, is just the Dodgers. I think they're going to come out with a sense of urgency tomorrow, which is good, obviously. but we've seen in the first two games of the series in the early innings, we see guys taking pitches like we saw Fried just spinning hanging curveballs on the first pitch of at bats. And I get it. You want to work counts. You want to get into the bullpen because, as we've been talking about, that pays dividends later in the series when you start facing some tired arms. But at this point, I don't think you could really wait and try to build Kyle Wright's pitch count tomorrow. Like, if you get a 0-0 pitch down the middle, you need to attack it and do damage right away. Like, I don't think you could just wait and be like, oh, well, we didn't score, but at least he threw 28 pitches. Like, that's a good thing. No, like, at this point, we got to score some runs. We got to attack them early. We're the visiting team tomorrow, so we'll be hitting first. So it would be nice if Julio could take the mound for the first time already with a couple runs to work with. He's been arguably, one of the best pitchers in baseball this postseason. He's been absolutely filthy in both of his two outings so far. So I think he'll be good again. Like I said, the Braves don't exactly hit well against lefties. So I'm kind of on the same page as you. I think we're going to see a good one tomorrow. What'd you say, 6-3?
Yeah.
I'll go 7-2. I just feel like they're due for one of those type of games.
Now, let me push back a little bit on the taking pitches, because I felt the same way. I was tweeting. I said, I feel like I don't know how offensively you get into a rhythm when you're going up there just trying to take pitches, and these innings take forever, all that kind of thing. And yet, I think the counter argument would be, well, you got the pitcher who had all these strikeouts and no hits, one hit out in 4 innings. And eventually the second reliever comes in and you get to him. And then the fourth reliever comes in and you get to him. So, I mean, couldn't you argue that at least tonight is almost the reason? Now, obviously your pitching didn't sort of hold up its end of the bargain, but isn't tonight kind of the justification for why you take pitches and why you build up the pitch count? Because then you get deep into the bullpen? Or do you think this is more of a matter of, it was a 7-0 game and that had way more to do with what happened than the actual pitch count?
Yeah, no, I honestly didn't have a problem with it tonight or last night, but now we're kind of at the point where now we're down 2-0. We're not really worried about getting into the bullpen at this point. Yeah. We just need to score some damn runs and win a game at this point. That's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, no, I mean, and I'm with you, right? It's like, it's so bizarre because it's not all that different from what they do during the regular season. But when things aren't going well, I just have this sense that they're in their head so much, like take pitches, that then when they actually do swing, they're a mess because they haven't swung in 7 minutes because it's 3-1 and they've just been watching the whole time. So it will be interesting to see. But yeah, I'll be curious. I mean, Seager's the one guy who swings right off the bat. But Mookie had like a 9-pitch first at bat walk and then the immediate wild pitch. So it's like, okay, things were working themselves out. Muncy took a couple good walks, but that'll be curious. So, well, that'll do it for us tonight. The plan for tomorrow is the same. We're going to come on about 8 o'clock again. So we're not going to do right after. It's kind of a weird time with another like 3:10 first pitch tomorrow, but hopefully the Dodgers win. We'll be back here. We hope you join us on YouTube and Facebook and Periscope, wherever you're watching with us now. We'll be back on at 8 p.m. tomorrow. As always, check out DodgerBlue.com. We'll have a game recap up pretty soon. We'll have post-game video on our YouTube channel, so subscribe to Dodger Blue 1958 on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all those places for updates and the latest. And that'll do it for us tonight. Julio Urias on the mound tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Kyle Wright for the Braves. Dodgers desperately need a win, and we both think they're going to get it. So hopefully we're back here at 8 o'clock tomorrow with good news, with smiles, ready to go. But that'll do it. So enjoy the rest of your night, and we'll see you tomorrow.